Hi and welcome everyone to our second webinar from the series Transatlantic Voices, Stimmen aus Amerika in Zeiten von Corona, with today's topic on cybersecurity. My name is Katharina Kiefel and I'm the program manager at Amerika Haus. For those of you who never heard about us, Amerika Haus is based in Cologne in North Rhine-Westphalia and is a transatlantic NGO. With me on this call is the founder and director of Defensury, Michael Neese, and Luca Della Torre will join us later. He is in a business meeting, so stuck for a little bit. I will introduce them in a minute, so don't worry about that. Those of you who are familiar with us know that we usually organize political discussions and cultural events with large public audiences. At the moment, this is of course impossible. However, as we are convinced that transatlantic relations remain important now, maybe even more than ever, that's why we have created this web series and will use this new format to continue the conversation with you guys on both sides of the Atlantic. And the fact that now so many viewers are on the call shows that you are as interested as we are. Thank you very much for joining us today. And also a big thanks to our colleagues in the background, Mike and Ian, who handle things while I'm talking to you. So before we start, I would like to mention some proceedings and some technical details. First, Michael will start with his presentation on cybersecurity, and after that, you have the possibility to engage in our conversation with your questions. And I highly encourage you to do so. So in order to do so, you have two possibilities. Number one, if you want to ask a question in person, please click down on the button with the hand button. So you can speak up and we can see that you raised your hand. We can then pass the virtual mic to you. And please don't forget to unmute your microphone. If you speak up, please introduce yourself shortly to the audience as well. Number two, if you want to send us a question in writing, please click on the Q&A button below or the F&A for Fragen und Antworten in German. And we can read it out loud for our guests, especially for those who are joining us via phone, and I see there are some, because they cannot participate in surveys and they cannot ask questions, unfortunately. If you like, you can later also ask the questions in German. That's not a big problem because Luca and I will translate it for Michael then. Please note, and this is very important, this call is on the record and it will be recorded and published later on our social media channels. Now I would like to introduce our guests. I will also introduce Luca, even though he's not here, but he will join a little bit later. I start with Michael. So Michael Neese is the Chief Sales Officer and Managing Partner of Defensury Inc. His background spans 10 plus years in relationship and B2B sales. He's always looking for a challenge into new business and started with Defensury in November of 2019 to lead sales and marketing operations. He was a corporal in the United States Army and was a graduate from Missouri State University. Luca Della Torre is also one of the Defensury's directors and founders. He founded the company together with Michael in 2019. He graduated from Arizona State University with a BA in Biomedical Sciences and an MA in Intelligence Studies from the American Military University. Before working for Defensury, he served in a special operations unit as a team medic and later joined an intelligence agency to become a paramilitary operation officer. He is specialized in human intelligence and he is an expert on international threat actors. So we are very proud on having you guys as experts with us here today. And we are proud and excited that Michael and Luca have agreed to talk to us. Michael is joining us right now from Las Vegas, and Luca will join us later from Düsseldorf, since they're also based in Düsseldorf. Thank you, Michael, for getting up so early to be here with us, despite the 9 hours time difference. And now, please introduce your company, what you do, and start with your presentation. Thank you and welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody out there, for taking the time to join today. Really appreciate it. So, yes, I'm Michael Neese. Been with Defensury since when we started last year. And essentially, we found that there was a need for, there's so many cybersecurity companies out there, as I'm sure all of you know. One of the things that separates us from most cybersecurity companies is that we don't just do something called penetration testing, which is just a broad scope of scanning a website for a company or scanning the infrastructure of a company to find their loopholes or weaknesses. We do that, but we also go steps forward because we both have a military background and an intelligence background. We work with people who basically can act as a threat actor. So we have people that work for us. We have about 80 plus contractors currently, many that are from an ex-intelligence background. It could be anything globally of intelligence. So not just the United States Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. And so not only do we do remote work when it comes to cybersecurity attacks, we also do on-site operations. So that would look like someone applying for a job, someone applying for an internship. They're getting on the inside of the company. One of the biggest things with cybersecurity is human intelligence. And human intelligence is one of the biggest weaknesses that we found through our work that can be exposed. So it's a pretty unique approach, and we do a whole 360-degree approach when it comes to when we do an attack on a company. Generally, we work with just the C-level people because if you currently have a cybersecurity team in place, which I'm sure most companies do to some level, they can be a little defensive in regards to we're not doing making someone feel that they're not doing their job right, or that something is there's a hole in there. They have a feeling that maybe they'll lose their job. That is not what we're about. We're about strengthening the cybersecurity team that's already within your company, and just showing you where you can tighten up those issues. So really, we take a very tailored approach to every situation and every company that we work with. We've worked with government agencies, we've worked with private entities, so really no job is too tough for us. We've got people globally, from Australia to Europe to Asia. Why we do that is because when someone needs to go to bed, we have someone from the other side of the world that can jump in where they have left off. So we generally break up our teams into an Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta team, so that with project managers over those specific teams.
Okay, great.
But that's a little bit about us.
Thank you for telling us. Okay. You can start if you like.
Okay, just go and jump in.
Exactly.
So, is everybody able to see the screen I've shared?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So with this pandemic, international pandemic that's going on right now, it's been a real bright future for a lot of hackers to make a lot of money. And sadly, taking advantage of the healthcare system, taking advantage of businesses, taking advantage of even companies that might have nothing to do with anything you think you'd be attacked for. And we're going to get into that. So we'll go for the next page here. So table of contents is we're going to start with just what cyber attacks look like right now in the COVID-19 era. Attack methods, consequences, common mistakes, risk mitigation, and then we can do a Q&A. And of course, if anybody has a question or anything in the meantime, Katharina, just let me know, and I'll do the best I can to answer. So right now, in this time, how cybersecurity is currently looking, really never had a more important role than being mission critical for organizations and agencies. Be safe. Excuse me. Geez, looks like Luca just joined.
Perfect. We will just let him in.
Maybe before I get started, he can introduce himself as well.
Exactly, that would be great. Perfect.
There he
Hi,
is.
Luca. Here we go. Hi.
Yeah, sorry for joining a little bit later. I was stuck in another business meeting, and yeah, my apologies.
That's fine. Welcome. I already introduced you and your bio to our audience, but maybe you would like to say a few words yourself. Who you are and
Yeah,
what you do.
Sure. So yeah, my name is Luca Della Torre. I co-founded Defensury last year. I served in a special operations unit as a team medic and later joined an intelligence agency. Worked within paramilitary operations, and then after I got out, yeah, I just decided to create Defensury. I saw how governments operate, how they red team within their intelligence agencies to ensure that their systems are up and running and everything is working. And then I heard about incidents in the private sector and figured out, hey, there's no company that does the same thing and pretty much operate like a foreign threat actor. Yeah, that's how I got the idea, and created Defensury with a couple of friends of mine that work for NSA, work for the Mossad and other intelligence agencies, and we grew pretty quickly. Right now we have more than 80 hackers available at any time. About 80% of them are coming from various intelligence agencies across the globe, plus yeah, former gray hat hackers with a huge experience, and yeah, that's how we got started and a little bit about me.
All right, thank you. So you both can now join into your presentation.
Great.
All right,
Awesome.
cool.
So now, but basically what I was just going over was, as everybody's been affected globally by this pandemic, and threat actors have taken no time to just get on top of it in regards to hacking businesses, whether it be on the private sector or even the government sector. So you'll see when I say there's no single health crisis after the emergence of the internet has changed technology's landscape more than this COVID-19, especially with people being locked in their home, not locked in their homes, but having to stay home to work, us using Zoom right now, as well as other types of technology from your home. And, Katharina, you and I were talking earlier about the fact that a lot of people are still using private devices, not even devices provided by their business, which makes them even more vulnerable. So as you can see, when the lockdown in the countries and sudden activation of this work from home policies by organizations have put IT systems to test, and basically the world's corporate workforce has to be conducting business from home. So when it comes to any IT assets used by staff, we have to ensure that confidentiality, integrity, and availability of corporate data is always in place. That is the one thing, and we're going to get into that here in just a bit about what you can do. But just a few stats here. The Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency lists critical industries as medical and healthcare, telecommunications, defense, food and agriculture, transportation, logistics, electric power, petroleum, water, wastewater, law enforcement, and public works. So as you can see, it's pretty much covers above board every avenue, every area of our life that's being hit. And you'll see this graph I got from raconteur.net showing you what mostly is being hit. A little breakout, and this is phishing attacks. And for those of you who are not on knowledge of what a phishing attack is, it's something as simple as an email that's sent to you with a link inside of it, any kind of data. You click it, they're taking your information. And Luca, if you want to jump in at any time to discuss a little what that looks like, but it's a very common tactic, and it doesn't just have to be an email. It can be a text message. That's as simple as it can be, so they can get through your phone as well. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, Luca.
No, absolutely. It can even come through, secure messaging apps such as WhatsApp, for example. Sometimes you get a text from an unrecognized number and you're wondering who that might be, and you check out the message and it says, "Yay, it's your colleague Jennifer." But it's not your colleague Jennifer. It's a threat actor that found your colleague on LinkedIn and created a link that you click on, and all of a sudden you download malware or whatever. Sometimes they just request you to fill out a form, and it looks like it's for work, and it's definitely not for work. They're stealing your information.
So that's just something to be in mind of with your colleagues, your employees, letting them know that if they're getting these emails that seem a little suspicious, just make sure that they're looking out for, especially if there's misspellings in the title of the subject of the email or within the email. That's very common. But you'll see most being attacked right now is webmail or SAS. Then you got your payments and financial institutions. But it doesn't stop at that. It goes anywhere: cloud storage, social media, e-commerce, retail, and telecoms. So since January 29th, and here we are going into May, so it's probably escalated even more. But since January 29th, when cybersecurity firms began tracking malicious activity associated with COVID-19, Proofpoint, a software company, has recorded 500,000 messages, 3,000 URLs, and 200,000 malicious attachments with COVID-19 themes within 140 campaigns. So you can see on the graph there below how much it's spiked. And that was stopping and dropping in March, but it's also absolutely gone up since then, as we are at the end of March. So again, we were just talking about phishing emails. So, if you're using a company-wide email to target retail companies, that's generally what they're doing, other businesses. And it's going to be able to infect all your staff members because it's going to be shared, and they ended up getting your IP as well as any other information to spread it throughout your business or company. And that's phishing emails is basically to lure a victim into, clicking on that link. A lot of Microsoft Office is, and I don't know how many people are using Microsoft Office. I think a lot of businesses do. So that's one thing that's very vulnerable. So keep in mind of that. So just one example of a specific campaign used in the U.S. was titled COVID-19, and within the staff there, as you can see, which was in the subject line. And so it really hooks your employee or whoever is opening that in to think, oh, I need to open this email. I have to. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to get in trouble. This might be a company-wide COVID-19 coronavirus update within our company, and so there's those triggering usage of words that they need to be looking out for. So like it sees at the bottom, the email that encourages the recipient to open or download a malicious attack entitled "Follow the company's new protocol." All of us want to be within protocol when we're working for a business, right? We don't want to be not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it's easy, especially for maybe a new member to your business, to jump on top of that because they're eager. So making sure that you're going across company-wide, letting them know to just be aware and knowledgeable on not opening something that seems suspicious.
We have one person who raised his hand, so
okay.
Should we just invite him for speak? Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Hi, Brian. You can speak up if you unmute your microphone. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Katie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Absolutely.
Hey, so one of the things that I wanted to know, and so by the way, I'm currently employed with SOCAF, or Special Operations Command Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to know was we have a lot of outstations that basically are left unprotected from the network for the most part, right? And they're out on their own, in their own areas or whatever. And can you guys speak to that on what is the best way to protect those outstations? And I wrote in a question, but my keyboard's jacked up, and I think I threw in a lot of extra characters and words or whatever, so I don't know if you guys understood it properly.
No, absolutely. I think that is a very, very specific question, and I would love to put you in touch with one of our operators who specialize in cyber warfare and government affairs, because we have a subsidiary called RedGov that only deals with governments. If you send me your email address, I would actually schedule a call between maybe one of our operators and me and you to answer all of your questions, because it's very specific.
Yeah, no doubt. So I can absolutely do that. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Brian, thank you. We'll send you the email later.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so we'll go on to the next slide here. So it comes into the malware and ransomware. So if you're not familiar with that, malware, that's what, when you click on that link, those suspicious emails that one would get, a link, that's what's going to install on your computer to steal your data. And ransomware, which is a big thing, and I don't know if you want to go into that a little more, Luca, but one of the biggest things that these hackers are going to do is when they get their information, they're going to hold you for ransom. And that's where the ransomware comes in. And so anywhere in the healthcare, automotive, energy, aerospace, they may spoof a user reader by using real addresses such as the World Health Organization or WHO. Like, again, another example of a subject line that's been used that I've actually seen is breaking COVID-19. So it was announced by WHO. So they try to make themselves look credible when they're not, and that's where you get in trouble. So just some of it's common basic knowledge or just using common sense for some of these things, but other times, again, it can sound threatening or very important, but just make sure you do your due diligence before clicking on it. So opening or running an attachment, then that has that GUI loader, installing an agent. So it's written in Visual Basic that can steal your usernames, your passwords, your credit card information, and any of the user systems. So that's something that you definitely don't want to have. Attack methods, and here's where the joke comes in. We're on Zoom!
Mike, just 1 second. I wanted to add something. So once your system got infected with ransomware, and you even pay for it, and you think everything is fine, attackers usually leave some type of loopholes within your system to attack you. And maybe not in the next couple of months, but in the future, if you don't reach out to a cybersecurity firm that's specialized in checking out your networks and making sure that there's no remote access point still active, you will have problems in the future.
Yep, absolutely. And that was one thing, Luke, I was telling them in the beginning about what makes us different is the fact that we do have on-site operators that can set up remote access points in businesses. And that just goes one step forward in regards to us, because we want to make sure that you're not only on site that you're clear, but that remotely you're good to go as well. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these people out there can just do all this remotely. So like I was going to go on video conferencing, video communication platforms like Zoom and Google Classroom have come under fire. Victims may get an email saying your company is having a Zoom meeting, and they're able to download to a file that has Zoom in it, and you think that's it. That's why Katharina put malware on my computer this morning when she sent me the Zoom link. And I'm just joking, Catherine.
I know.
Text alerts, like we talked about earlier. So it doesn't just have to be in an email. It can be through a text. It's so easy these days. I get them frequently on my phone, just random text messages. So your information's out there, and we're in an information age. So just making sure that that they're not clicking links through these text messages. And then obtaining sensitive information. So typically a link to a fake login page, or to convince the victim to send resources, money, and even equipment via fake invoices, fake purchase orders, and even to fake charities. And that's happening a lot right now as well. The fake charities always been going on, but especially with COVID, donate to this organization, donate. So just being aware, doing your research. Consequences of these things, if we're not being secure and safe in regards to our cyber work: identity theft, intellectual property theft, bank fraud, healthcare record theft, data loss for one's business, significant legal liability, negative media, public relations attention. And that is something I think that anyone out there that is running a business has to keep in mind fully. Is one of the things through the ransomware that they can do, they'll hold you ransom, and then they're going to either say they're going to go to a PR firm, they're going to basically send negative media about you. And there's nothing, anybody on this call that's owned a business or worked for a business knows that if you get bad publicity, I guess there's a thing, what does it say? That any publicity is good publicity? Not necessarily. You don't want your company being known for someone that's just liable and vulnerable. So making sure that all the mitigations you can take is really what you're looking for. Common mistakes. So the work from home dynamic creates a very opportunistic situation for hackers and phishers. Every home device or wireless connection is a potential entry point. So, employees are going to be looking, if they're working from home, if they have kids, pets, health concerns, finances, data security is not going to be the top of the mind approach. So it's just something that you want to make sure that you are encouraging your employees that are working from home, even yourselves, to just keep in mind, just to keep the safeguards or cyber attacks down. So just making sure that we are understanding what a phishing email is, not opening emails that are from a source out of fear, thinking it is from a business employer or employee. Not using a secured network is a common mistake. And we're going to get into VPNs here in just a bit. But malicious applications, so downloading games on a work or business computer, that's a no-no. Connecting non-server devices like a USB, which a lot of hackers call that a rubber ducky. They can stick that in. That's generally what's going to happen when you're on site as an operator. Private cell phones, etc., to your computer. So here's some risk mitigation that you can do. So appropriate planning, making sure that when you are having your employees working from home, that you're planning appropriately. Company policies put in place. I think that if you don't have one already, now is the time to put a cybersecurity policy within your business, because a lot of people just don't think about it, which makes sense. But we're in such a vulnerable time. Getting a policy put together, and guys, how are you working from home? How are you protecting your computer, if it's a business or personal? Employee education and communication kind of goes with the policy. Having owners and employees install a VPN. So that's a virtual private network, having that on their computer. So basically it's going to very much so protect your computer from data theft. And Luca, if you want to talk maybe a little bit more about VPNs.
Well, VPN, it pretty much gives you another IP address. So you're masking your actual IP address. And there are browsers that automatically start a VPN connection as soon as you open them. But if you, for example, want to use Google Chrome, download a VPN such as Proton VPN, completely free of charge. Is going to protect your actual IP address.
Yep, that's what I use actually, is Proton, and yeah, you can get it for free, and I think it gives you up to like 3 countries. So, so yeah, just making sure if you are working at home, that do all your company employees, subcontractors, relevant third parties have clear instructions and guidance on how to conduct their work in a secure manner. Adopt strong passwords. So, a lot of places when you're signing up for something, they're going to suggest that you have to use an capital letter, a symbol, numbers. That is the best. Don't do something like your dog's name. Try to make it as secure as you can.
Also
back up your data.
You use different passwords. Don't use the same passwords. Let's say, for example, you have a great password and you think, okay, now I'm going to use it for all of my email addresses and logins. First of all, make sure that you separate business from private stuff. So have business passwords and have private passwords, and make sure that you have as many as possible.
And back up your data. So if you do have like a external hard drive that you can put your important documents on, that's always a big deal. And then again, like I was saying earlier, check spelling and grammar before opening an email or clicking a link. That's the biggest giveaway, is the spelling in the grammar. That's a big giveaway when having these emails. So a little bit more here. Just ensure the latest firmware is installed. Luke, if you want to kind of talk about firmware a little bit.
Firmware, it can't be pretty much anything. Firmware is actually pretty broad. Let's say, for example, you use Mac iOS. Make sure that you're using the latest version. Everything in general, every software, keep it up to date. Because if you use, let's say, version 8.1 and there's already version 8.6 out, there's definitely a reason why the developer of that software brought out an update. And it's usually due to vulnerabilities. And if you go ahead and, like as an attacker, and you identify what software version your target is using, you can pretty much use a textbook and find out, okay, version 8.1 is vulnerable to a cross-site scripting attack, for example. And then you can really, do like a textbook style attack. So make sure that you update everything, and doesn't matter how small the app is, the application or the software, make sure that everything is being updated.
And log out frequently. So don't keep logged into your emails and things. If you're not using it, don't just log out. Always check the source or center of an email or attachment. Ensure to verify the validity of the website if you're on one that is questionable. Never download any non-work applications or software to your work computer. That's one way they can get into your system. And just remember to never connect any private unknown devices to your work computer. And the biggest thing that I learned is when you're not working, shut it down, turn your computer off. That's the easiest thing you can do.
Absolutely.
So that's really it. Katharina, if you want to open up for any questions.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michael and Luca, for this wonderful and very insightful presentation. I think you can close it now. And yes, perfect. Thank you so much. And thanks for doing it over Zoom. I know you made the joke earlier, but you stepped into the ring.
That's what I do.
Dear guests, like mentioned before, if you want to interrupt and ask any questions, you're more than welcome to do so. But before we jump into all the questions on cybersecurity, I would like to ask a general question on the daily life, since it's a part of our series. And I would like to know what is going on in Las Vegas right now. I mean, how has coronavirus affected your life so far? Is the strip totally closed? What happened to the casinos and the hotels? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I haven't won a lot of money lately.
Okay.
It's pretty creepy. The strip is shut down. If you guys get online, you can probably see some photos. The strip's not known for its social distancing, and so that's definitely not going. If you possibly you might have seen our mayor here, Carolyn Goodman, on CNN with Anderson Cooper.
Yeah.
Asking for the opening, or just trying to make a case to just open up the strip, which I think is crazy. I get it that it's economically it's crushing. We are the leading city in the United States right now for that's been hit the hardest. There's about 60,000 people that come in a day from McCarran Airport, which is the local airport here in Vegas. That's been completely shut down, and that airport's not shut down, but there's people aren't coming. Everything is black, and going in the red. So it's not fun. It's an interesting time. Luckily we can, the people that can work from home can, but I've got plenty of friends that have been either furloughed or laid off from their jobs that work down on the strip at the casinos. But yeah, it's grocery stores, the essential workers thing is still, open at this point. But yeah, we've been hit very hard.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Thank you so much. And I would like to return to the home office question and kind of return to your presentation as well. So, so here's the situation. I mean, you start to work from home, but you must use your private device, like you said before, for work because your company could not provide you with a laptop on time. However, it's still a private device, right? With private use outside of the work time. How can you make sure that your private use is not a threat to the company's resources on such devices? And how can you comply with valid and necessary security standards while working from home? Could Alexa be listening to business calls because you forgot to turn off the Amazon Echo? And what happens if you scan documents, for example, on your home scanner? Do they leave traces? So, what do you
Luca,
think?
I'll let you jump in on that one, and then I can jump in.
To be honest, sometimes you can't really ensure that your private laptop is completely secure. If you download games, if you download certain software, whatever, for private use, there's always a chance that your system could get compromised. And then if you download something for work, obviously an attacker will also have access to those types of documents. And one thing that you should always do is download something like McAfee, for example, or Windows 10 has like internal security programs that you can use to identify potential threats to your computer or laptop. But other than that, if it's a private device, you can't really ensure that there's nothing on the device that could become a risk.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Katharina, it looks like I have a question here. It says from Ursula, how do you assess the security of the COVID app that is being planned by the German government?
Let me do a survey because I prepared a survey for our audience, and I would like to pull it out because, I mean, a lot of countries are planning this Corona contact tracing app, or how some people call it, the Corona warning app, since politicians around the globe are leaving hardly anything unturned in their efforts to control the spread of the coronavirus. So I would like to know your opinion, dear audience, on that question. And here comes the survey. I hope you can see it all. Here we go. So, would you allow a Corona contact tracing app, Corona warning app, to collect your personal data in order to protect yourself from coronavirus? Yes, I need to protect myself. No, I don't trust them. I don't care, or not sure. Unfortunately, you can't take part, Michael and Luca, and I think you'll be fine.
I do like what I'm seeing, though, so far.
Yeah, so we will give it
No,
just
I don't
another.
trust them.
Well, I wouldn't trust them either. So.
Yeah, we just leave it for another 30 seconds and then we'll pull
No
out the
worries.
results.
One thing while we're waiting, and I talked a little bit, Catherine, with you about that they're looking at using drones as well now to monitor people's health, body imprint scan, see how their body language is, how they're coughing, taking their temperature.
Yeah.
So it's we're kind of living in a 1984 George Orwell a little bit.
Yeah, it's getting pretty scary, I think. So, can we have the results? Can you see the results now?
I do.
Yes. Okay. So 18% say yes, I need to protect myself. 45, no, I don't trust them. 0 for I don't care. That's good. At least you care about that and care about your privacy. And 36% say not sure. So, I mean, like Amazon and Google, for example, they already announced the system. I mean, they are not the only apps for tracking and spread of the new coronavirus that allows users to share data through Bluetooth. The new system would use Bluetooth to establish a contact tracing network, and official apps from public health authorities would get access to this data. And users who download the app would be able to report if they've been diagnosed with COVID-19. So the system would also alert people whether they were in close contact with an infected person or not. And recently, I think just last week, about 300 scientists came forward to express their concerns regarding these types of proposed apps. And they declared in an open letter and warned about the dangers of total surveillance. So fact is that these apps should work transnationally, right? And now, what do you think? So how easy is it for hackers to get access through Bluetooth, for example, to our personal data from the phones?
I personally think that an attacker would, use Bluetooth. An attacker would probably look at the setup of the application, and see how data is being transmitted between the end user and the servers, and wherever it's in between the end user and the server. I personally wouldn't trust an app like that. I am aware of multiple banking apps, for example, that have been out for years, and the banks are constantly releasing updates, and they're still not secure. We still find vulnerabilities. So I wouldn't trust an application like that.
Okay. I mean, what would be the worst case scenario? If they would get our data through apps like that?
They could, depending on what type of data.
I mean, our life is on phones.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So the question is the attacker only capable of extracting data within the application, or is the attacker even able to go a step further and infect the entire cell phone? But even if it's like only an application, I don't know what type of data you have to provide to sign up. But obviously an attacker could go ahead and sell information online, if it's like an email, password, personal information, date of birth, etc. There are forums on the dark web where you can sell these information for a lot of money, and so I wouldn't really trust an application like that, especially because they're trying to release those apps ASAP without really focusing on security.
Yeah, I mean, what they can do is they'll steal your whole identity and your health records, especially when this time when it's a whole health epidemic.
Yeah.
And if they want to have you check in on this COVID app, it's gonna be somewhat health related. So I would assume, and in that way, you can just have it all taken over. So I don't know. To me, it's a little sketchy, and I personally wouldn't trust it. But
yeah, I mean, and later, I mean, if the apps get installed, so what can we do to protect ourselves, and what happens to those who are not using smartphones? I mean, especially the elderly people that belong to the high risk group, right? I mean,
Well, frankly, it's probably not a bad idea not to use a smartphone sometimes. I have friends of mine that actually use flip phones still, because not only did they get addicted for a while on apps and social media, but flip phones are actually a lot safer, to be honest, at least in my perspective or my experience. But I mean, that's not
if you can still take a battery out, it's definitely safer than an iPhone.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I hope we could answer your question, Ursula Hohmann. If not, please type in your question again. And we have another raised hand by Brian. I hope he wants to speak up again. Okay, Brian, can you hear us?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Hey, one of the things that I was hearing from you guys was the mobile user platform, right, is now almost becoming a normal thing for the community in general. And so when we're talking about mobile platforms, or I guess remote apps, or like we're doing now with the Zoom office space, right? How are we, I guess, even remotely capable of protecting ourselves when everything that we do now is so interconnected?
That's a very good question. So
That is a good question.
Obviously, there are certain tools. If you really have a work laptop and you use certain types of communication tools, etc., and you also ensure that your network is safe using other expensive devices, you can make it pretty safe. I would never ever say that anything is 100% safe, but obviously an attacker has to spend more time if you have certain security measures in place. But for a regular user and small businesses, I don't think it would make any sense to invest hundreds of thousands just to secure communication. If you follow certain guidelines, you'll be definitely a little bit more protected. But to give you like a 360-degree protection, you would obviously have to hire Defensury, for example. And
That's not a shameless plug at all.
And purchase very, very expensive equipment.
No doubt. And so I appreciate the answer, guys. And also another thing that I wanted to ask too was if we're in this everyday environment where right now, especially in Germany, they're producing laws that say essentially if you can work from home, you have the right to do so, right? Which I appreciate anyways, because I feel like most of telecommunications work can probably be done online unless it's a secure network and you have to go in or you have to patch stuff in or whatever. But how can we incorporate some education into our user database?
Another good question. First of all, I think employers have to do training, employee training, and really have certain guidelines in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I talked about a little bit earlier, Brian, about policies and procedures and education. And that's one thing, and I'm not trying to plug Defensory, but I mean, that is one thing that we do is education. We actually have contractors that can come on site, or even do it now because of travel bans and whatnot, do remote training with staff, with C-level employees to just your everyday employee, that they can at least give some basic and even into top tier level education in regards to mitigation of cyber attacks and what to be doing, what to be looking for, how to protect your data, how to protect your software, how to protect yourself. So that's one thing actually that we do with our operators. And again, we have operators all over the globe, so they can be at any time, anywhere.
Absolutely, and that's what I was trying to ask. Anyways, is one, how do we protect these people on the front lines from, like, in our own current outlook, right? And mine too, from a military standpoint of security, but also as we go through this entire pandemic process, how do we secure civilian users as well? And what can we do to better educate them on proper, I guess, tips and tricks or otherwise to ensure that they not only stay safe, but their data remains safe as well?
So I would always suggest, first of all, like, I don't know how it's like in German schools, for example, but when I went to high school, we had, computer classes and so forth, but there was really nothing about security in those classes. I think schools should start educating kids on security and how to protect data from the beginning. And then there's some great manuals online, but obviously, people would have to look for them. Maybe Defensory should publish a little blog post about how regular users can protect themselves. There's some manuals online, but I think education should start early in schools, because now every elementary schools every elementary school has computers, and they should start teaching kids how to properly set up security on their home computer. Mike, I'm not sure if you want to add anything.
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing, it's just education. And I think, even we're talking about educating ourselves online, when online is where we're getting exposed to. But like I said, if you set up a VPN, a free VPN, it's as easy as like 2 clicks, and just start reading.
Update it.
Yeah, and updating and just educating yourself. I think that, and that's one thing why we came up with our own university as well in regards to training people. Now, for the civilian sector, we can do that. We do the civilian sector, we do the government sector, but it's really just about keeping updated on what's the new thing coming out, what's the new crisis or threat that's out there. It's sad that people are so ill-informed, but also it's sad that there's just dirtbag people that are taking advantage of a health crisis right now. So I think the biggest thing it is what we're doing right now is we're all communicating with your family, communicating with your friends, and saying, hey, have you looked into this? Have you thought about this? This is a link that I've read that you should check out, or whatnot. But just common sense smarts too. Like we were talking about the phishing emails. I mean, that's the biggest thing, the first step of mitigating getting malware or ransomware on your computer. Just don't click something that you don't know. Just don't. I think the biggest, like I said, communication. Just sharing what you know or what you've learned off of this call to your colleagues and family. That's really where it starts. And then from there, companies do hire people like companies like Defensory to do education, to set up cybersecurity for them. But there's a lot of places you can choose from. But yeah, education is, just reading.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, you're definitely pro-progress. And that will be my last question, I guess, because we're running out of time.
I would say be proactive versus reactive.
Yes. So I jumped just to the beginning of the 2020. And to me, personally, it seems just like the half of the world, or at least Germany, has not yet arrived in a truly digital era in regard to digitalization, AI, and 5G, definitely. Now, Corona happened, And we see how dependent we are on fast internet connections, the digital progress, working from home, homeschooling, what you just mentioned right now. And it's amazing that you're doing all this educational stuff. Online meetings, etc. Like on the other side, however, you see people protesting on the streets and burning 5G towers worldwide because of a conspiracy theory circulating on the internet that 5G is somehow connected or related to coronavirus. And I mean, what do you think about the divide between the much needed process of digitalization on one side, sorry, versus protest against progress on the other side?
Well, it's the same thing with like anti-vaxxers. You'll always have people that will be against something. I think it's just a conspiracy. I don't think that you know those theories make any sense at all. I'm not sure if you want to add something, Mike, but
yeah, I mean, I'm into conspiracy theories because I'm a weirdo. But from what I've heard of it, it's, you know, there's only like 3 or 4, maybe 5 countries that have the 5G towers going on right now. Anyway, maybe South Korea is one of them, I think. Yeah. What I've heard anyway, is that it's not creating the COVID virus, but through the waves, it's making it react harder or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the theory. I think the biggest thing, again, it comes down to education and just and listen. I'm all about going to various sources. I'm not a guy that goes to just one source. I don't just watch CNN and, you know, or MSNBC or Fox News. I go to like random or like online or wherever to get my data, and then you can make your own conclusion from there. But I haven't seen anyway any proof that 5G is
connected to
spreading
Corona.
the disease or making it worse. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Cool. We just leave it out there for some people who.
It's something fun to look at.
Exactly.
Let's get kooky.
And yeah, I mean, I see we're running out of time. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
It was a very interesting conversation, and there was actually our second webinar so far.
Hey, we did it together.
We did it together with you guys. Thank you so much, Luca and Michael, and also thanks to our audience.
Just real quick, did Brian receive my chat?
I will hand it over to him.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I also know him, so.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, he will get you information.
And if you guys want to check us out, you can go to defensory.com and have more information on there. And if you guys need any other information or collateral, we can always email it over to you. Just let us know. But
you have also a report, right? Which we can add to our...
the one I went through, or what report?
Or your presentation. I mean, we can just...
Yeah, you absolutely have it.
Mm-hmm. Are we okay, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You can post it. You can do whatever you want with it.
We will publish this call and the presentation later on our social media channels. And like I said before,
shout out to Ursula. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming on and doing this call with me. So yeah, I mean, we're planning, like I mentioned before, we're planning these video calls on a regular basis with different US experts and from various backgrounds and regions on various subtopics. So next week we will have a cooperative webinar with the University of Bonn on the US elections. It will be on May 5th with Alexander Görlach. The invitation will follow soon, or just check out our webpage, our calendar for more information. So I just say, let's stay connected in these challenging times, and be assured we will be back digitally and once times allows again and presence. So until then, be safe, stay healthy, and have a great holiday weekend.
Thank you. Take care.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.